In the dense, alligator-infested swamps of early 19th century South Carolina, an escaped slave by the name of Forest Joe became a legendary folk hero. Through cunning tactics and an uncanny ability to vanish into his surroundings, Joe evaded slave catchers and struck fear into plantation owners, earning a reputation as America's first escaped slave vigilante. In this special episode, we tell the amazing story of the defiant stand of the slave Forest Joe, who leveraged everything from his environment to his blacksmithing skills to launch a crusade for freedom from slavery's shackles. His bravery would light a flame that led hundreds to escape bondage and join his Maroon colony deep in the swamps. Joe's journey begins on a large plantation where he toiled daily as a blacksmith and carpenter, living under the constant threat of the lash. Though valuable for his skills, Joe endured abuse and humiliation. One sweltering summer night in 1820, he decided he had enough. When the drunken overseer arrived at his cabin to mete out yet another beating, Joe confronted him, and after a violent struggle, strangled the man, escaping into the wilderness. Bounty hunters with snarling hounds picked up Joe's trail, expecting to capture him within days. But Joe had other plans, using nature to his advantage. He rubbed onion and turpentine on his body to throw the hounds off scent, waded through water to mask his tracks, and made his way deep into the swamp, seemingly vanishing. As the days stretched into weeks, Joe's escape took on an aura of legend among the enslaved people on plantations. Tales spread of his ability to shapeshift into animals, control snakes, and more. Some insisted he was blessed with the protection of African spirits against bullets. Joe put such folklore to good use, continuing to assist others in escaping bondage. As his colony grew, so did his ambitions. Using guerrilla warfare tactics, Joe led stealthy night raids to free groups of slaves and pillage food and supplies from storehouses. He taught his people skills in noiseless movement, camouflage, and surprise attack, turning escaped slaves into a trained fighting force. Honing his blacksmithing, Joe created South Carolina's first bulletproof armor from molten metals. This iconic early supersuit vest shielded his heart when ammunition was scarce. More crucially, it allowed him to directly confront and demoralize plantation owners who never expected a defiant former slave immune to their gunfire. Joe's dramatic exploits and seeming invincibility fueled superhuman legends about him throughout slave communities. For 5 years, Joe combated bounty hunters, militias, and soldiers, outwitting every attempt to capture him. As tales of his colony swelled, so too did followers, reaching over 600 escaped men, women, and children. This swelling underground resistance network gave Joe an almost mythical status. In 1825, betrayal by 2 newly escaped slaves led a large militia to Joe's main settlement while he was away. Hopelessly outgunned, about 130 men, women, and children fought a heroic last stand rather than surrender, reloading their few firearms again and again. At least 40 were slaughtered before Joe raced back in time to cover their retreat. In the battle that followed, bullets riddled Joe's homemade armor as he single-handedly held off waves of attackers so his people could flee deeper into the swamp. A fateful shot finally found its mark after his vest broke, striking Joe in the shoulder. Gravely injured, he disappeared into the darkness. Militiamen plunged into the swamp to collect the bounty, only to find themselves under blistering attack by Joe's rearguard, buying precious time. By the time soldiers located Joe unconscious and bleeding out on the forest floor, all survivors had escaped. That day, the great Forest Joe perished after 5 years of spectacular victories that inspired hundreds to rise up against their bondage. but the massive manhunt for Joe's followers would last for years, unable to capture more than a handful of survivors protected by the people and allowed to rebuild anew. Today, Joe's bullet-dented armor stands on display in the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture. It serves as a symbol of the ability of the oppressed to transform tools of violence into instruments of protection. His ingenious grassroots warfare tactics would reverberate far into the future civil rights movement. The folklore surrounding Forrest Joe still swirls through the South Carolina lowlands, immortalizing this early black liberator whose courage helped ignite the long road to emancipation. His refusal to submit lit a fire in the spirit of African Americans that no amount of injustice could extinguish. If this unknown legend saga inspires you, give this video a like. Subscribe as we track other unsung historical figures who displayed incredible resilience in confronting tyranny. Let us hear your suggestions of other unknown legends overlooked in history and Hollywood. Stay tuned for our next episode, unveiling the incredible story of a new invisible legend. Until the next episode.